Welcome to SB405D Project Management. My name is Felicia Frida Aiden Aqua. I'll be taking you through this Unit 3, Project Scope Management. We're going to focus our discussion on Session 5, Project Time Activities. This is a continuation from the previous one. So in this session, by the time we are done, you should be able to discuss how to plan your schedule management and how to just define your project activities as well as schedule your project activities and estimate the project activity resources. So we're going to start with the plan schedule management, and we're saying that according to the PMI, project schedule management is the process of actually establishing the policies, procedures, and documentation of all your planning, developing, managing, executing, and controlling the project schedule. For us to be able to meet the schedule we have, the timelines we have for our project, there's a need for us to plan, develop, manage, you execute, and then you control what all the established policies and procedures and documentation for you to be able to what meet your project's objectives. And so the aim of the activity is actually to make sure that you're able to meet your project deadlines or timelines effectively, so that the time factor is met and you are more effective at it as well. And so there are lots of things that goes into your schedule management. One is the project schedule model development, and others the model development is actually looking out for methodologies and scheduling tools which you can use to do your schedule profitably or most effectively. You need to look out for the level of accuracy. So there are acceptable ranges which is used when we want to determine how realistic these estimates are based on the various contingencies. You can't say you want to build a 3-story building in 1 month. It is not realistic enough. It is not possible enough. And so sometimes this level of accuracy helps us reach realistic targets for those timelines. And we also have the unit of measurement. Obviously, anything going in there has to be measured. So if it is staff days, we're going to use hours, days, weeks, month, yes, everything. If it is cement we're working with, are we going to do it per kilo, or the quantities we're going to go with, or is it going to be metric tons or what? Everything has to be in there to the T. There should be a unit of measurement for it. Then we have the schedule model maintenance as well, which is used to actually update the status of the project in the schedule model. Started doing the execution of the project, you need to be able to do this control, else before you realize things just go off. And then we have the control threshold. We made mention that when the actual versus what is being done, or the set standard we had versus the actual, when it's not meeting up, there's what we call the variance. And so whenever these variances happen, we then need to put in some control measures to make sure that we are back on track for us to be able to meet these objectives or targets we've set on our timelines. And so these 5 elements are very critical when we want to actually plan our schedule management. So how then do we plan our schedule management? First and foremost, you need to look out for how to create your schedule. So the plan provides the steps that are to be taken in creating the project schedule, which involves project tasks, the resources you're going to need, who is going to even perform those tasks, the scheduling methods to be used. Then we're going on to also look out for the tools for the scheduling. There are lots of scheduling tools you can use for your team to actually make the work easy. So one common tool most people use is the Microsoft Project. You can just use it. That makes the workload way easy as well. Then obviously, like we made mention earlier, we need to manage our variances, manage the differences that comes in there. And so for us to be able to do that, we need to have some sort of schedule baselines and actual baseline. You need to be monitoring them to see where the differences is coming from, what is causing it, and then how can we solve it, most importantly. So once we're done, we should then be able to define our activities. And for you to be able to define your activities, you may have to first have an activity list of all the things you need to do, activity attributes, what are the attributes of these things, or how would you describe these things? Or so first and foremost, yes, you need to describe all your activities, list them all out. Maybe those are 20 activities you're supposed to do under this project, under this time frame. List all of them up and then give us a description of the activity by identifying the multiple components which is associated with each activity. So this activity A is going to involve doing A this, B this, C this, that, so you need to get us the list of the activities, then you continue to look out for the attributes of the various activities. And some of these things you'll be able to achieve all of them within the shortest possible time. Let me put it like that. So you may have to put them into milestones, that okay, we can do this for now. In the interim, we're going to look out for this, and in the long term, we're going to look out for these are realistic ways of actually managing or working on your project attributes, because it's not all of them that you can actually be able to work on it. And so when it comes to your attributes, it can even be code, colors, and all those things which are going in there. And project milestones also matter. We're saying that they indicate whether a particular milestone is either obligatory or optional. They are all things which are looked at when we are looking out for the word project milestone. But basically, you need to have an activity list which is spelling out all the activities that need to be carried out. You need to be able to go on further to look out for each attribute, each activity, the attributes that or key things under it which would have to be looked at, whether it's requirements, whether it's dates, constraints, colors, and all those things. You need to look at all those key attributes of those specific activities. And then we need to also be able to have the milestones. There are things we can't achieve now. We may have to put it in the midterm, in the long term. We have to have all those as well. So once you've been able to do that, then we need to be able to sequence our activity. What should come first? What should follow? What should then follow? What should then follow? Whether you want to go chronological or reverse chronological, that is up to you, but we should be able to sequence our activity. And so this is a process of actually identifying and documenting relationship amongst the project activity or task. Specifically deals with chronicling the dependencies among scheduled activities and putting them into logical order. Yes, obviously, you know that something should come before something for something else to be able to work. And so if you don't have that chronological thing, you realize that if you don't sequence it properly, workflow would halt, and at a point someone's what they need from the output they need from one becomes the input of the other. And so there's a need for us to be able to sequence activity. Obviously we can't control if we have not planned, so obviously you need to plan. Then we can't also control if the actual thing, there was no set objectives or targets for us to meet. So if we didn't plan, we didn't set targets on all those things, how then do we come and control? If we want to control, that means the work has to be done. Then we can see what is being done as against what was set out for us. And so chronologically, there's supposed to be a plan, there's supposed to be set objectives, there's supposed to be actual work, there's supposed to be monitoring and evaluation to see whether we are on point or not before we can even end up controlling. That is a sequential or chronological something in there. And so to achieve this, the project manager actually needs to carefully examine the relationship which exists between the activities which has been scheduled, looking at which one should come first and which one should follow. So predecessor and successor. Predecessor is what comes first and successor is what comes after, so that they can be sequenced properly and logically. It will be wrong for you to do controlling before you actually plan. It won't work. So you need to be able to know what comes before the other. The key benefit of this project, this process, is that it helps you gain the greatest efficiencies given all your constraints at work. Yes, there are things that are going to limit you on your project, which we've made mention of under the project constraints. But at the end of the day, you can still make the most of what you have at your disposal if you're able to what properly sequence your activity. So how do we estimate activity resources? This is also very important here. So you need to estimate activity resources, which is a process of actually estimating the type and quantities of material, human resource, equipment, and supplies which is actually required for us to be able to what perform each activity. And so we need to look out for the resources we need, the various types and quantities we need, whether it is material, whether it's human resource or labor, whether it is equipment, whether it is supplies. We looked at all these resources in our earlier units, and so these are very key for us to be able to estimate each activity's resources which is going to need. And the key benefit is that it helps us identify the type, quantity, characteristics of these resources for us to be able to achieve each activity and allow a more accurate cost and duration estimation. If you're unable to do this properly, our cost estimations are just going to be something else. Our duration or our time estimations are going to be something else. And so they are very, very key in there as well. So yes, when the project team has actually carefully performed this function, they can actually achieve the activity resource requirement, which is telling us the things we need for that activity. The resource breakdown structure, just like we have the work breakdown structure, you need to have the resource breakdown structure. It's where we're going to break these major, how do I say? So the resource breakdown structure, which is actually going to help you know the various types and even the grade or the scale level which you've been needing of your resources, whether it's material, human resource, labor, and all those ones. It is very much important. And obviously, your documents would have to be updated all the time. Update is very important, even though sometimes we work on projects and you become a bit reluctant to update some of the things you're working on, but it's very important, including all the activity documents you're going to have in there as well. So in this session, we have discussed how to plan, schedule management, define activities, schedule activities, and estimate activity resources. Thank you.